I have a company doing the last drawer of microfilm in the office, and they should be done about 3-4 months. And then I just have, the vital records, but they're all backed up in Des Moines anyway, so I don't know if I'm gonna scan those.
What company are you using?
US Imaging. And they're tied with Tyler, with Eagle Recorder.
Because I thought about doing like my board minutes book, but we did our drainage books in, what's it called? Image Tech. But they're not user friendly, and they're not.
There's no search engines.
It's hard to, I have a lot in there that we did, but
It's really difficult it's not user friendly. And if I'm gonna pay a bunch of money to back up books, I wanna be able to use them.
yeah.
There's no searchability at all.
Very little.
Ours are by book and page, which is not too bad.
You have to reference something else first. Find out what book and page you're looking for.
Well, you have to know you kind of have to know which book and page, of course. Yeah, because we can't search by name, which I don't like. So.
Somebody could make a lot of money getting that searchability. Premium company searchability.
There you go. And then I took out that $3,400 under software maintenance agreement because Eric covers that for me. That's for Iowa land records. I have that. We have to pay that every year to be part of that, and otherwise it's pretty much the same. Might be looking at getting a copy machine this year, but I'm assuming that Eric will do that as well.
Having issues with the old one?
Just starting to a little bit. It's getting older.
Is this owned or leased?
I think this one's owned. But is he doing lease agreements like on yours, Carla?
No, we own
It's
ours
owned?
too.
Okay.
He's trying to get away from lease agreements because the only one that's still in the lease agreement is up in the county attorney's office.
Okay.
And they still have a lease agreement, but everybody else is owned.
Probably a better deal.
Until they go wrong.
It's fine as long as they work the way they're supposed to. If you get a lemon, then you're in trouble.
You sell those lease agreements based on fear. Well, this is only gonna last so long.
Well, and we've done the lease agreement and had really bad service or at least sketchy service.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was
that
really bad, but it was
Not
not,
the greatest.
yeah.
You just never know.
Yeah. And it seems like that's the copy machine we had the most trouble with. Like the one we owned, we never had any trouble with it. This one's
been really good.
yeah.
So if you've got two line items for document, you get record management is 14,000.
Yes, because that is, that's also money that I use for to do the images that we're scanning, the back scanning. And record management is an account that we get $1 for every document we record. So that's money that's already there.
And then back up towards the top, the document and imaging service.
Mm-hmm.
That's the new line item you talked about then?
Yep. It just helps cover it all. It's not a cheap thing when you have them do it for you. We tried, we've done quite a bit on our own, but we're also finding that some of the images aren't the greatest. So lot of them are fine, but it's really hard if it's an old book that is real light to get a good image on that. So you almost need a professional to do that.
So were you doing them just on scanning like this?
Yeah,
or-
I rented a book scanner last
Mm.
couple of years ago, 2 years ago.
Well, I did some scanning last year. Remember, I was in there getting the book open just right, and I get a screen,
Oh, yeah.
get my camera up there and take a picture of it. I have that program where I can,
Genius scan?
oh, it's a Google product, but it's a photo scan.
I have
So you-
Genius scan on mine. It
you
works
take a
really well.
picture.
Does it?
Yeah, I think it works really well.
You take a picture on this one, and then after you click, then you go up to this dot, this dot, this dot, this dot, and then it just stitches everything together.
Together,
for you.
yeah.
It worked out pretty good.
Yeah,
So
there's-
we're going through all my mom and dad's stuff when he was moving out of the house, and instead of, fighting over pictures, we all just took our own pictures of what we wanted. So there's a hard copy somewhere, but
Mhm.
everybody got their, what they want digitally.
Yeah, that's been a huge undertaking because all those books in the vault, we tried to scan just in case there's a fire or something, because it's funny, people still want copies of that. They go, for an abstract, if they have to rebuild one or something, they have to go back and get copies of those deeds and mortgages.
A lot of history there.
Mhm. You guys have any other questions or anything look different?
No.
I tried to keep it, pretty close, except for salaries. That's kind of what bumps up my, and insurance bumps up my budget. Of course, our educational and training is down because we're not going anywhere for training.
Well, you guys have any questions?
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, thank you. You know where I'm at? If you need anything.
Well, Scott could give more of his time if we call him up right away, hopefully. Scott wanted an hour, so if we call him up now, he could have,
An extra 20 minutes.
You was 75-30.
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Scott, do you have time to come up now? All right, thanks.
Did you get his email that he sent out? Did you get his email?
I'm hoping he brings up, I didn't want to
Oh,
print
yeah.
all that.
I did get it.
That was 36 pages or whatever on one document.
I didn't want to print it either, so I just
I can bring it up on my
put
phone.
it on here.
If he's gonna have a presentation, it's probably.
I bet he'll put it on he'll, I guess, he'll have a flash drive or something.
I had a question about, we talked about that I should call Andy Buffington about meeting with him.
At the hog
or if he
confinement
would
site,
meet- Yeah,
yeah.
and what was that? Do you remember the date on that one?
Mm,
You have to schedule.
I think I sent you an email.
Yeah, I don't, it hasn't been scheduled yet.
Wasn't it February 2nd?
Well, February 2nd is when we have to have the
That's the public hearing date.
public hearing.
Oh, so it's not that.
Sometime before then.
I think you were supposed to be contacted by them.
Yeah, and I
Probably
had,
you need to call them and.
No, I emailed you,
oh,
because
yeah.
they emailed me and I emailed you. I forwarded it to you.
Who was the
So-
contact?
I have the one that was the Logan 22. That's that one?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was an additional one that was already, that we had to go out to a site. No,
No,
That's Logan 22.
that's Logan 22.
That's the
Okay.
new one.
All right. I went and looked at it already too, to see where it was, just interested.
You have to look at your email and try and call the guy or whoever it is.
He's talking about replacing the bridge just north of Buffalo Center there. I didn't even post it.
Oh, yeah.
It's in his plan here.
Thanks for a good question.
Yeah. Drive across all the time and I don't remember seeing a sign.
Yeah, so the email said I left a message for you at the office. Wanted to send you an email to confirm I've set up the site survey for Eagle Park 15, site 22, or section 22 Logan, at 1 o'clock Monday, January 25th.
Yep, I have all that.
Okay,
But do I need to call Andy is what
yes,
I need to call him if I want him to meet out there.
yep, so that
Okay,
he
I don't
can,
have his
And
numbers.
he'll be here at 2:30.
Yeah, that's why I made a sticky note, because I thought, don't let me forget to ask him. I don't have his, I have his
I can give
both
it to you,
office
though.
numbers.
I can give you so.
it should be on that sheet right up there too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's see.
should just take a picture of it.
Yeah, cells here. Top right.
Oh, good. Thank you. So Carla, I don't need to confirm with that whoever I'm meeting out there, though.
No, she said
She's
just,
gonna be there.
Yep.
It was a woman.
mhm.
Okay.
What was that gal's name then?
I didn't write it down.
Sheila Bly.
Wow.
Hello. What number am I? Have you been through a few already?
There's the list.
Yeah,
You're done?
quite a few already.
So I did not print your presentation.
Okay,
I didn't want to waste that much ink. Not that it was a waste, but
that's fine. Carla, are you able to put that up on the screen?
Mm. Which one do you want?
The slideshow?
I'm just finding your budget.
Sent you an email with
Yeah, I know you did.
PDF and I think there's two PDFs. One is a kind of slideshow of the major details and one is the spreadsheet with all the background figuring. There you go.
That one?
Yeah.
Bill's gonna have to almost turn around now. Or would you rather look at it on your phone?
I can give you the paper copy if I can see the one on the screen.
I move over there.
pretty lengthy and complicated budget, so I've kind of summarized some of the bigger points into this presentation. And if we want to walk through any line item level questions or whatever, we can do that as well. But first off, I'll just kind of walk through my goals for my budget. Slide, please.
This isn't a slideshow.
Yeah, it is.
Can you
Well,
change, can you
it's
change?
not.
It should be a PDF. Give me a full screen view. Maybe download it as a PDF.
How?
Or try that button down there at the bottom, above the plus. Still wants to be strange.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at least it centered it automatically. Can you just click a down button, up and down to?
Yeah, well, it's okay.
It'll be
All right.
fine.
All right, so I was going to walk through secondary road fund and the ending balance, after the proposed budgeted expenditures and revenues, the tax levies that my department will affect and how much they are, health insurance, salaries, and construction. So let's dig into that. My budget targets. For secondary road fund ending balance, we've talked about this a few times. I've set a target of 1.9 million, which is 44% of annual expenditures. And the reason I chose that number is because I looked at the other counties in the state, what they carry over at the end of the year, and the median number is 44%. It is quite a bit higher than anything we've done since I've been here, and quite a bit before, as far as I could see in the records. We have had ending fund balances around 400,000, pretty small percentage of annual expenditures. And so we've gotten into situations where before the taxes come in the summer, which is when we spend the bulk of our money, especially on construction, the money wasn't in the bank. And so that was problematic for operating, and for a couple of years we were working with Julie to try to keep close tabs on that so that we'd always have money in the bank when the bills were due. Another thing is it does not really allow for emergencies or large expenditures that pop up. So it's been my goal to try and improve that ending fund balance so that we have money for emergencies. We're starting to save up some money in our local fund for gravel crushing and construction, which are large expenditures that don't really fit into 1 year unless you build your fund balance. So last year we approved 564,000, which was better than the prior year. This year I'm proposing 955,000, and that's based on a balanced budget within 1%, so revenues and expenditures even out, not exactly to the dollar, but within 1%. Any questions on that?
So the 44% of annual expenditures number that you came up with as a median, is that an accurate carryover of actually taxed revenue, or is there any other numbers that would affect that across the board through the other counties, or?
One of the only major expenditures that goes through the local budget that makes things go way up and down is the pass-through construction dollars. That's something it's pretty hard to put your finger on because of the way that it's reported. It's hard to break it out that granularly. What exactly would you want to see?
Well, I just want to make sure it's an accurate number, apples for apples.
Yeah.
That there isn't a bunch of construction money in there that was carried over for the project after the first of the year.
Yeah, maybe I can dig back in that information and see if I can break that out a little better.
This is a year where a lot of that could have happened.
Well, here we've had carryover due to construction projects that went on to the next year.
Yeah. My thought would be that our budget, our secondary road fund would be similar enough to other counties that the ups and downs would all kind of factor in and get to kind of a net zero effect. Because we have some that carries over, they do. Sometimes we look short because we've, really spent hard on construction or whatever. Sometimes they would do the same thing. So I can look into that in more detail. So the next slide are levies. So the secondary road fund receives transfers from rural basic and sometimes general basic as well. The way the code reads, secondary roads can levy a certain rate, and so those funds levy that rate and transfer it into secondary road fund. And once it's transferred there, it stays there until it's expended. Secondary road department also spends money directly out of the rural basic account. And so this year I'm proposing the same levy rate equivalence as last year. The rural basic and general basic are the maximum statutory levies by law, but we have historically levied pretty close to that for rural basic and time to time general basic. The rural basic direct expenditures, that's been increasing slowly over time, and I'm proposing the same levy rate equivalent for that as well. So those are my levy rates that people see. Health insurance, we originally started with the recommendation to include 20%. I've got 14% in mind as we were directed to make it 15%. My 21 estimate is just that, an estimate. I have 23 staff and things change all the time, whether they have single or family or switch back and forth or we're short a staff member or whatever. So that's an estimate. So when I got my budget all put together, it come up 14%, and that's what I left it at. For salaries, we have 3 in the engineer's office that generally follow the whatever the comp board recommends, and the Workmen's Association, which has 1 more year on their collective bargaining contract. So overall, my salaries show an increase of 2.6%, and the reason that's less than the 3 or 4 is because there's some variability in our wages paid out depending on overtime hours, which can be substantial in the winter, and seasonal help, which is paying people through the summer that we either pay them to be there, or if we don't have seasonal help, we don't pay that out. So I kind of did some analysis over the last few years, and I thought that our wage numbers were higher than they needed to be, and so I backed that off just a little bit. Other budget targets. This is another one we're trying to fit in line with other counties as to what % of our local budget we spend on construction. It gets easy for construction to be the thing that always gets cut, and after a while you realize everything's going to operations and nothing to construction. So if you aren't diligent about keeping that percentage high, it's something that can dwindle. And so 590,000 is the 14% of our annual expenditures. And I have 4 main projects included in the budget. They total 660,000.
The bridge that you're gonna replace north of Buffalo, on the blacktop there,
Mm-hmm.
It's not even posted, is it?
It's not posted. Bridges on blacktops, you try to really replace it immediately before it's posted, I guess.
So
Because
it's-
if you ever have a posting on a paved road bridge, that causes, some real,
Yeah, it's a real inconvenience for guys that don't know it's coming. But is it about to be posted, is that it, or?
yeah, I can show you the report on it. We have kind of an analysis that shows what kind of oversized load permitting we can do on all of our paved road bridges, and that's the one where they have said, we really wouldn't want to have anything over legal load on there, just because it's deteriorating so rapidly. It's a steel I-beam bridge built in, what is it? 20s.
Suppose it's been there that long.
Maybe it's been rebuilt, parts of it since then. Anyway, it's steel I-beam bridge with a concrete deck and an asphalt overlay over top of that. It's really not best practice to put asphalt on concrete because it can trap salt and moisture, and so it can deteriorate the deck without really being able to see it. So they're suspicious that it has quite a bit of structural damage based on the leaching underneath of it. So from the bottom of the deck, you see kind of like a spider web of rusty color, and it kind of shows that there's a lot of hairline cracks in it, and there's a lot of deterioration from the inside, kind of leaking out through the bottom. So with that bridge, I wanted to put in money to replace it in case our next inspection comes back with, you need to post it. And, a year down the road, if we decide we want to try and get another year out of it, we could postpone the letting. But I wanted to kind of have plans on the shelf and things submitted so that we're ready. Because otherwise, if you're trying to turn around a project like that and you haven't done any of the development, the lead time can be a year or better. And that's improved. It doesn't take 2-3 years lead time like it once did for federal aid projects. But that's my strategy for that one.
So the paving on R-74, what type of paving project would that be?
Let me dig into that in a couple slides. So the next slide here, I just wanted to illustrate that E9W1 bridge replacement, it's a swap project. And you guys have heard this before, but swap just means that the county used to receive federal aid for certain bridge replacement projects. And a couple of years ago, the legislation changed so that the DOT now keeps federal aid dollars and swaps that out with state dollars. So we have a few less requirements. It improves the speed and costs of our projects at the local level, and the bottom line is it's 100% reimbursed through a state program. So the net local dollars being spent is $460,000, a little bit short of where I'd like to be, but I'll show you why that is in a bit. Okay, next slide. So this is the bridge Bill was asking about, E9W1 we call it, which means it's the east side of Section 9, the west side of Section 9 in Township E, which is Buffalo. It's an old bridge, and probably the easiest thing would be just to share with you some more details on the condition of that bridge. It's been on my 5-year plan, kind of rolling, and I think now's the time to move it up. We don't need to make that decision final because the letting that I'm hoping for is January of 22. So what we would do is we put plans and specs together and submit it for letting sometime in the fall, this coming fall, and it would go to public letting in January and then be built the following year. So hypothetically, it depends on when it gets built, whether we need that money in this budget or the following. You know, if they started in April, we would pay out a lot of the cost in this fiscal year. But let's say it let in January and the contractor didn't show up until July 1st. This money we would kind of hold over and move to next construction year. But because it's 100% reimbursed, we just take our best guess about what percentage happens in each fiscal year. The full cost is I have estimated as $500,000. That could change significantly as well. We're looking at replacing it with a 16 by 12 box culvert. There are box culverts upstream and downstream currently, so I'm hoping that works hydraulically, and it should. If we can get away with a box culvert, I expect that cost estimate to go down. But it is pretty deep. I think there's 22 or 3 feet from the road to the.
That be in-house, you do it or you hire it?
Since it's a swap funding, we need to let them through the state, so it will be a contractor working on this one. If for some reason we wanted to do something that was tricky to get through a bid letting or difficult to specify, we could switch it and build it with our own forces. We would just have to kind of swap around some funding and swap around some projects, but I think this is a good one to include for bidding because it's a large box, it's deep, it's a lot of work, and it's a lot of money. And if we're going to take the trouble and put plans and specifications together and do the bidding process and everything like that, it just as well be kind of the more expensive projects we have, just so we're not bogged down doing a lot of prep work for small projects. We're on the next one there. Next one is F18 to N1, which you can see Thompson there in the bottom right of the picture, a couple miles from Thompson there. Very typical timber bridge. Planning to put a 12 by 10 box in with our own crew, hopefully, and do that in the summer, in this coming summer, fall. Our crews have put in many boxes and pipes over the years, so hoping that will be possible here as we get a new superintendent in place and get up back to full staff.
Are you getting applications in?
We are. We have some in there stacked, so it'll be nice to go through in detail and see how many we're going to interview and all that. Next one, Carla. It seems like a long ways out there, right? We're construction summer of 22, even maybe fall of 22. That's a long ways from now, but there's a couple of small paving projects I've set up because I think they might need it this early to go to public letting in January of 22. And if they start right away in the spring, we would need money in the budget for these projects to be constructed summer 22. I don't have the exact scope figured out of how we want to improve these two stretches of pavement. They're kind of some lower. They get not a lot of heavy traffic, and so they're both of them toward the end of what we would typically consider the end of life for an asphalt pavement, but they're both doing okay. So we'll start with the one up in Rice Lake there, the road from A34 to Clubhouse, basically. That road is, I looked in my records and I was having trouble finding any improvements since 1990. So that might be the age of it, I guess. If it's 30 years old, that's pretty impressive for asphalt pavement.
So everything from the clubhouse and around on the residential must have been in the
99.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, I wasn't around, so I'm not sure, but I think that 1990 is the date on the rest of that. So if it's 30 years old, that means, I mean, we're doing really well on it if it's not completely blown apart. That section, I've inquired with a couple of companies about doing maybe some stabilization of the base under the road, because there are a couple spots where it gets a little bit alligator cracked and like it's got some subsoil issues. So if we could fix some of that from the top, and most likely it'll be just a mill and overlay project of some depth that I'm not sure yet. 2-3 inches of mill and overlay. Unless I can nicely pair it with a cold in place recycling project, and we can get that kind of equipment in there and they're already here, then maybe we would recycle it. But with all the trees so close and hanging over and it being such a short stretch, that might not be the most economical. My other thought on that is, this is a discussion for a 5-year program, but the rest of the roads in Rice Lake are aging, and we've done a little bit of patching in there, and in the next 5 years is probably a time to do a little bit more rehab in there. And so, is there something we can do with this short segment to buy time and then do it all together? That might make economical sense to try to pair the entrance road with the rest of the subdivision. In which case, maybe a year from now, come up with kind of more of a maintenance project to include other roads in the county as well. My budget doesn't include very much for patch money, so it's possible that $150,000 would be better spent on countywide asphalt maintenance, and then save up that $150 a couple years down the road, and pair that with whatever funding we decide for the rest of Rice Lake.
Is there any avenues to, if the people out there wanted a walking path on the side or something to widen it? We don't have a lot of right of way there to work with because of the trees, and we tried to improve the vision a little bit, and it helped. I don't know if there's any other funding that would help us put a path on the side of it.
Golf carts would just use it.
As part of the road or separate?
As a shoulder pathway.
Like a paved shoulder, you mean?
Yeah.
I think the only paved shoulders we have are the ones from here to Pilot Knob, and I think the Hanson Foundation paid for that, I think. So my instinct says our funding is primarily, road purpose. If it's a paved shoulder, it might apply, but might be a little bit of a tough sell in the state of our paving funds. But not to say that there aren't more trail type grants out there.
Might be a question for Robert.
Yeah.
Well, I'm on the same committee as he is, and they're meeting here coming up soon.
Yeah.
But that type of project probably wouldn't qualify just that stretch.
Yeah. It'd be
If it
seemingly convenient to put them together, but more realistically, it's probably standalone kind of thing, where a group of stakeholders would have to get together and try and fundraise and design the project, even if it is connected to the road. But my gut is it would take quite a bit of dirt work, because there isn't really much of any shoulder on that road. So, it isn't quite so simple as just paving rock shoulders like it would be on most of the roads in the county.
I know in the past we've looked at all the way from Lake Mills out there as a bike path on the shoulder.
So that's probably a discussion for another day. So I think I got some question marks on that project, and I wouldn't be surprised if things changed. But we'll make that decision together. But at this point, I'm plugging in money to be able to repave that road. Our 74 South there, same thing. I got a decent amount in there to do, I think, whatever we need. If we can get by with less, that would be great, and then we'd have a little extra money left over. But we paid about $230,000 a mile for some of the projects this year. So I think most likely that's a mill and overlay project too, something kind of less than cold in place recycling, but more than maintenance. Okay, so then we're just switching kind of from fiscal year to calendar year. This is kind of the map I'll give the guys once we get to the summer. This was quite a cluttered map last year, but this year there's not a whole lot on it. So the red one up in the north side there, I don't know when this project's going to happen, but B&B will cross A16 with that DD18 lat 11 tile. Maybe this winter, they think, but the way that it's looking, B&B is going to install the tile across the road, and we'll work with them on any backfill and to get the asphalt patch back in. So
B&B's doing both the improvement projects.
Okay.
a lot of times when tile projects are done, our crew does the road crossing portion, but in this case, with our superintendent opening and this being possibly early spring and B&B interested in doing the project, that's the way we're setting it up right now. So I've included that in the budget for, after July 1st. It wasn't in this current budget. It's a pretty big dollar amount, so it should be somewhere, and I plugged it in just in case. I think that's a safe way to go about that. We got like 65, 70,000 in the budget for that. The blue one there on the left side, I'm sure you can't read it there, but that's the F18N1 box culvert I talked about earlier that our crew would install. The green one there is one I didn't talk about. It's a bridge right now, but because it's less than 20 feet, it's not legally called a bridge. And so we're going to replace it under the maintenance section of the budget. It's $115,000, so it's a big maintenance project, and that's why our construction number is a little bit short this year, because we have a large number tied up in maintenance. So bridge replacement, 10 by 8 box culvert planned for that location, and hopefully we do some channel rework. This is, if you guys know Kendra Amundsen and her husband, what's her name? His name. Eric. Yeah, Eric and Kendra Amundsen live out there. They've had some flooding issues, and they've been working with John Forsland, who owns the farmland around them, to try to do a little bit of work to mitigate some flooding on their property. And anyway, the creek's also right next to the road there for quite a few hundred feet, and we'd like to move that creek away from the road so that it's not a hazard to driving public. It's the case where you get to the edge of the road, and then it's probably 1-to-1 or steeper than that down 12 feet. It's not really a good situation, so if we can move that over with that bridge replacement project, that'd be, I think, worthwhile. So we'll look into that. Possibly this project could get pushed into spring of 22, depending on how negotiations go with John and the property owners out there. And then the red one there at the bottom is the Four Cities salt shed parking lot. Down here where we have our facilities, the salt and sand storage buildings sit kitty corner from our main shop, and the asphalt paving's coming up in slabs right now. It's in really poor condition, so plugged in some funds for repaving of that lot. That's a contracted out job, so that kind of covers our big construction and maintenance for the year. Okay, so then some large category expenditures for my budget, things that always seem to come up here. Our rock budget. I did some looking into what we've done in the last few years and what we've spent. The price of rock is growing steadily. This year it's projected to go up 2%, or they've committed to going up 2% here this spring. So based on the trend, we'd be looking at $472,000. Now, because we got a couple of big years in there, specifically 2020, which was the after effect of the terrible spring we had in 2019. 2 years ago already? 2019, spring of 2019, right? But the effect of that was in the FY20 budget, so that 484 there is probably bigger than we would need on an annual basis. That was more typical. So I backed that off. 460,000 is the number I used for that. Okay, diesel budget. This is a little bit more volatile in price than rock, of course. So figured out what an 8-year trend would give us, 233. And a 4-year trend, which is more like 260. This has both usage and dollar per gallon, into it. So it's not overly scientific how we're predicting this, but I picked a number between the two trends, 250,000. Another number that's hugely affected by what kind of winter we have. Okay, and then our equipment budget, which we kind of started the conversation here the last couple of weeks. The FY22 budget that I'm proposing, $475,000, and as we've talked about before, it includes a new plow truck chassis and box with reused snow equipment, a new maintainer trading for a cat truck that we have, and that totals 465. And the reason 475 is larger than that number is because there's some question marks in here and deals that haven't been finalized. So that's what our plans are for the new equipment budget this year. I gave you the kind of overall equipment list, which is full of small things as well, but this kind of breaks it down into category a little bit. So I got on the left side maintainers, and I've also in maintainers I also include the Oshkosh trucks because these are all gravel route snowplow equipment basically. We have used 12,000 hours as the time to evaluate whether we should keep that piece of equipment, and we have 3 graders over 12,000 hours, and then we also have that other Oshkosh, which is not as reliable as we'd like a piece of machinery to be for plowing snow. It's the 1989 Oshkosh truck. So the red circle is basically the piece that we would want to get rid of in exchange for these new equipment. And then there on the truck side, 350,000 is the number we've used as the time to evaluate whether we get rid of it. We do have one over that, and I also highlighted the one there, that cat truck, just because of our experience with the other one. So that's the one that we're planning to trade for the grader. So that means 541 we'll still have in the fleet, and hopefully that'll be a useful truck and stand by for us until we can replace that one with another truck. So,
That's it.
that's it. One more thing I wanted to mention, I got, looked at overall revenue numbers. Our road use taxes, looks like it's projected to go up 1.48% this year, which isn't very much. And our total taxes, based on the same levies, the revenue I would receive would go up about 4.4%. So that totals up to be about 2.5% increase in revenue if all my levies stayed the same. And I've done my best to present a balanced budget, and 2.5% increase in revenue isn't great when you compare it to how quickly health insurance is rising and the cost of goods, especially with shortages of metal and other supplies, things like that. So, but overall, I'm happy I was able to fund our current level of service with same levy rates as prior year.
So I'm looking at your road use tax numbers on the revenue flex sheets. And it shows through January 30th. 1,464,000 so far in this fiscal year. See, does it taper off in the second half of the year?
So Time 21 funds are, when I talk about road use tax, basically split up into three numbers: road use tax, Time 21 funds, and I don't call maintenance FM extension funds. So road use tax are kind of what it sounds like. It's gas tax that comes to the county based on mileage in a large formula. Maintenance FM extensions is the money that we get to maintain all of the roads that cities used to maintain, that are farm to market roads through towns. Cities used to maintain them, and they changed the law in like 2006 that said now it's the county's responsibility for towns less than 500.
Which line was that?
The 7903-267. See that one there? Be about 21,000, 22,000 budget number.
Expenditure or
Revenue, excuse me.
Okay. Okay, yep.
See that one? So that's kind of the trade money, right? So we maintain the road through Rake, through Scarville, through.
Do you have that one little road at Lake Nelsville or not anymore? Out to Goody's place.
We don't have any of these types of roads in Lake Mills. No.
We don't.
You guys
It's towns.
maintain one for Buffalo?
Nope.
No road there?
This would be just towns under 500.
Okay, all right.
So Rake and Scarville, and then Leland has one that we return to them. That'd be all.
Well, I was just looking at the road use taxes, it just seemed like it was a strong number for half the year.
Yeah. Time 21 formula is pretty unique. So it's not just a percentage of the road use tax. It's like when road use tax reaches a certain threshold, then it diverts and then the remainder goes to Time 21. So the Time 21, this is 7903-2674. The budget number should be like 280-some thousand. What's the current, total received on that number?
Which one? The Time 21?
Yeah,
Nothing.
yeah. So that one would be heavier on the tail end because of that.
Yeah, I was just looking at last year at the same time, it showed revenues in the road use tax of 1.4 million, 418,000, whatever. And it ended up, with 2.2 million, so it was a lot less the second half.
Yeah,
So it's pretty much in line with last year, which isn't too bad considering how little driving people have been doing.
we've seen emails from the DOT trying to predict what the effect of COVID has had on road use tax, and they initially predicted quite a significant decrease.
The number I remember is 30%.
Yeah, and, they saw the truck traffic pretty much run consistently through without any losses, and the passenger vehicle traffic took a dip, but is all but recovered. So, and all of the registration fees and everything like that, all those may have been delayed, but they weren't ever, wiped off people's pocketbooks. So that came in later, and as far as we can tell, it's gonna have almost a no noticeable effect to our budget. So that's really encouraging after all that's happened.
I read something once where a lot of people weren't driving back and forth to work anymore, but they were driving back and forth to their friends and going fishing and stuff like that. So
Sure.
it's kind of made up for it.
Yeah,
Oh, and people are quarantined, I think just to get out of the house, they go and just
Just go
drive
driving.
that's
around.
one thing you can do pretty safely is drive around.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
stay in your car, and,
Look at all the rest of people sitting in their houses.
yeah.
But basically, the Service Bureau does an estimate for all the counties at the beginning of the year and says, here's what we think you should plug into your budget, and those are the numbers that I've used.
Okay.
Mm,
We can call you back up at 3 o'clock if you have more to talk about. But
Am I done with my slot right now?
yes, the sheriffs are waiting.
Okay, did you guys have anything else you
They have
want
more
me
guns than you do, so.
to? Yeah. You guys won't have anything you want me to dig out for you? I can dig out more on that
I think,
first question you asked.
do you have anything you want it from? I think we'll just probably have more discussion, maybe at 3, and a lot to absorb.
Oh, I understand. If you have anything you want me to dig out, let me know.
Yeah.
Do you want me to come back up at 3 or?
I think so.
Okay,
Or maybe we'll just give you a call when we get done with the
okay,
one after, right before that.
okay.
You don't have to sit up here waiting for.
Waiting for Terry when he gets long-winded.
Yeah, he's been quiet today. Thanks.
Yep.
After you.
Thanks.
Afternoon, gentlemen.
Hello. Are we on YouTube?
Yep.
Well, you can get over here and get on camera. Don't you insist this?
No, thanks.
You can wave to all your fans in YouTube.
You just have at it.
I've got face for radio. You're much prettier.
You're more recognizable, how's that?
Yeah, there you go.
You're just off.
Perfect. Well, what do you have for us then?
Well, this is my first foray into this, so what do you have for me, I guess will be the question.
What path did you take to get to where you're at now? I mean, was there a goal in mind? Is there just minor changes you're trying to make throughout the whole budget? Any
Well,
projects?
I guess the biggies would be that, in that you've approved for us to hire on an additional deputy,
Right.
and so that'll be a vehicle.
Plus, we'll have some revenue coming in for that.
Yep.
Yeah, the only big changes should have been, like, the deputy's salary would be for the additional guy. And then, in the jail, since last year's budget, we added in another jailer since last year
Yes.
also. So other than that, everything, I mean, a few minor changes here.
So when we added the jailer last year, are we staying within last year's or this year's budget with that cost, or are we gonna have to do an amendment or?
I think we're still good the way it looked.
Good.
We might have to do one yet, but I think it looked like we were still sitting good there.
On that matron code, we had a question.
So this request on salaries includes your new hire?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
And Carly, you inputted all the, like, the FICA, IPERS numbers and things, or,
Sandy actually put those together
Okay,
this
and
year. I
yep,
kind of looked at them and I didn't see anything. Well, I did it first, but then I talked to Mike and we got everything all hashed out.
yeah, that's
so-
Sandy thought, no, I think we're there, and normally you had done it in years past, I guess, is my
Yep,
understanding.
and
And
Sandy decided to give it a shot
yeah,
this
so
year,
we kind of took the tag team approach on it, looked at it, and I think, okay, we got it, and
And like last year too, we took one new vehicle out of rural basic and one out of the general, is how we did it again this year.
we still have one salary coming out of it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got several line items for salaries, and I always forget which line
So,
is which.
The 1,000 is the deputies. The 1050 is jail, right?
Yep.
And then the 1060 is administration. So Steve's and Mike's and Sandy Larson's salary should come out of 1060.
Correct.
Whose comes out of 1060s? That's administration?
Administration, so it's Steve, Mike, and Sandy Larson.
And Sandy. Okay.
Well, I do like that number, jail repair 0. It is kind of,
We're there.
No, are all the issues taken care of out there now?
They're still working on the valve stuff.
Are the valve
Yeah.
stuff is still going?
Yep.
We were asked that
They're
question
working
the other
towards
night
it.
at Farm Bureau,
I,
and I hadn't heard anything, so I assumed that good news, or no news was good
I know
news.
they had talked to somebody about it or whatever, and they were trying to figure out what to do for the valves.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly where they're at on it right now.
Right, that's, I've been trying to,
But the doors have been resolved and,
As far as the errors,
yeah,
I think that's still an issue also.
oh, all right.
well, and with me trying to get up to speed, yeah, that's my understanding of everything. I've been trying to get with K1 and K2 and just,
Mhm.
we wanted to get the once over done, and we didn't get that done weather-wise, so.
Were there any other increases other than salary, the insurance?
There's one acute emergency triage, I assume that is. I see you're increasing that one by 5,000. Looks like it's, the actuals were a little high in 20.
Right, that's for the medical for the prisoners,
Yeah.
right? So that's why we figured we better increase it, because I think we're gonna be over.
And, you know, and of course, when COVID goes away, we start opening up again, all those minimuses and all those things, they'll catch up to us, so.
I just can't believe that you put someone in jail and have to be able, the county has to pay for their medical care. It just doesn't seem right.
Well,
I'm trying to go back and recoup that from them, that
Right.
we have to go through the civil remedy now, and
Well, most people that are in jail usually don't have a lot anyways,
Mhm.
unfortunately.
So the salary under rural basic is a deputy then?
Yeah. Carla?
Yeah.
On the second page here, this matron, it says dash W2, what is this?
Page 17.
So it's,
Why is it,
it's
why is it
because,
W2 and then down below it's got 1099 also? I mean, why is that two different?
you know, I don't know the answer. Usually,
Wouldn't it just be matron and it was the figure?
well,
Or not?
because we don't usually hire somebody even part-time as a matron. So, I mean, the fact matrons shouldn't get enough to get
A W2?
a W-2.
Yeah,
So they should be just under the 1099s.
Okay.
But I think a few years ago, there were a couple of matrons that they used a lot, and they ended up making over the, like, they made enough money that we needed to, like, actually give them, like, IPers and, or, you know, like, so.
Yeah.
But that hasn't happened for many years, that we've actually had somebody make that much money doing matron stuff.
Right.
Because now we have all female
Exactly.
jailers. Before, it wasn't like that.
I thought that's what those numbers were behind W-2 and 1099 tax type numbers or whatever, but, yeah.
I always love this one, the miscellaneous. What comes out of that?
Where are you at?
Oh, it's,
Page?
1060, page 18, 1060, 99991.
Miscellaneous.
Yeah.
664.
Looks like it's way up from what it has been in the actual 2021 already.
Okay, and our discussions with that, as I recollect, it was like car items is sort of what we use for an example, right? Like toe straps, or I can't remember what all we conversed about on that.
And that's the 1060. So that would be. Yeah, I don't.
I think Sandy might have pulled a couple of claims as to what we had done
Right.
prior in that category.
And considering where we were sitting at for the 21, that's why it was increased.
Yeah, I can see.
We're already over.
I can see why it's increased, it's just, you always wonder what's in miscellaneous.
Yep.
Usually I tell people, if you can't find a category to put it in, we need to make you one and not use miscellaneous. So,
Because people ask me what that is, if they.
Oh,
see
sure.
things, what's miscellaneous? I'm like, miscellaneous.
Did you put COVID-related supplies or something in there, or do you have another line item for
Then you have to clean.
cleaning and?
I don't know if we, unless that's where some of the miscellaneous would have been. Otherwise, I mean, the custodian supplies here increased 1,000.
Yep.
Did.
And Kevin, as to what
Right.
that would be.
Safety and protective we increased too.
You have a separate IT out there, right? It's not
Right,
This
they
side
hire,
too.
Right. NGT.
And what's that under?
It's on page 18, third one down.
Oh, right there.
Any issues out there IT wise? Get things taken care of timely fashion?
Yeah, Fridays is usually their scheduled day, but then that snafu last week with the storm and then the holidays before that, so they're due, and so this Friday. Brad actually called me on Thursday, and kind of in a fret, and I said, don't worry, next week's good. So,
Yeah.
They remote in a lot too.
yeah,
And
yeah.
It's like I was on the phone with them twice already today.
And they had on mine over the weekend, well, when I fired up my computer, on his and admin was the last log on.
Hmm.
So, and they're real prompt and really good with questions.
under your revenue section, there's two areas of prisoner room and board reimbursement. There's one on page 14 of revenues, that's 80, budgeted for 80,000. Then there's another one down below. I was trying to figure out the difference between, so 50, it's 50/50 on that. How does that break down, Carla?
I'm not seeing where your first one is.
The first one is.
Oh, up top?
Yeah,
Probably shouldn't be 50/50 because it's not technically 50/50, it's 60/40. And I can't remember what the split is.
Where are you at now?
I wonder if you're-
In the
if
revenue?
you look at the actuals, it shows
Page
up what
14
the
of
split
the revenue?
is.
Mhm.
I wonder if our page 14 is set up a little different
Right,
than
this,
yours.
we don't got the current, this was.
Yeah, this
Before
is
you
the
enter.
scratch sheet. So,
Okay.
there, Pete. Okay.
We got one here for board prisoners and then.
Oh,
there's
under
another
general
one-
basic.
Then there's another one right down here, so where'd it go?
So if you look at the actuals, like in 19, in the lower one has 129, and the upper one has 87. Or 128, I guess, on the one line.
And you're asking because these are equal, 80,
Yeah.
80 is what you're
So-
proposing?
Well, so when somebody comes into the jail, 40% goes to
General fund.
general fund,
Yes, 62.
and then 60% goes to the Board of Prisoners Fund.
Yep, and we can only spend those monies on certain items.
Oh,
You know, it's-
yeah. I see what you're saying.
Code is
444 and that's 443. Or no, there's
You're
443.
looking at-
Oh, that's the same number.
This is actual income estimate, right? To a certain account, right?
Say that again?
So these numbers are going into what they can spend one place and general.
Yes.
General basic, and then this is under jail phone.
Still really more.
So if we're gonna estimate, we should probably
Well, this is
adjust
the-
those two numbers.
That's
Yeah,
the end of
like
that
the-
total.
Yeah.
This is
and
board
one,
prisoners.
Oh,
Yeah,
right
and-
here.
But
Okay.
this is
If you
general
want-
basic.
That's general
Just let me know what
basic.
you want me to put in there.
Why is there two different ones?
Well, I think
Uh,
the numbers are probably fairly safe, but just, you gotta just appropriate accordingly, so.
Just fix it so it's not
160.
50/50.
This is real basic though.
60 or 40% of
Yeah,
100.
What's this- what's this-
General.
That's general basic. What's this second one under?
Huh?
Like this one's under general basic, the top one, and the bottom one is that,
It's also under general base.
is it also general basic?
But no. What's 05?
05 is the department.
Okay, and then you got
But still.
032.
Same one.
So seizure funds is 32, and that's kind of like Kelsey's, she was talking about seizure funds this morning.
Okay,
Then they have,
24 and then 35. 35 border prisoners.
yep,
So that's the protected fund, they can only spend 60, or 60% has to be spent on prisoners.
yes.
That's why it's split out. It's coming from the same spot, but it's being put into separate areas.
Yeah.
It's a separate fund.
So it looks like to me, if you're gonna
General
go
fund,
total
and then
60
this
split,
is
the top
also
one
coming
should
to
be
Total
us.
for general basic, and then this is
and the bottom one should be
total
96.
for prisoners. That's kinda weird. It's just those two added together, and
Jail phone accounts.
Jail phone's your commissary.
That'd be like the texting and the phones and the commissary. The ankle bracelet
Yep.
piece. Yeah, just the breakdowns.
So the interest on investment on that prisoner board money, that has to be spent on prisoners, huh?
Yes.
Well, if you look back a few years, your budget's gone up dramatically in the last 8 years,
Mm-hmm.
but so have your revenues. The jail, there's a lot of money coming in now too,
Right.
a lot of expense going out.
Yep.
I gotta tell people, there's only one way to save all this money, and that's to have people quit breaking laws,
Yeah.
A lot of job security out there.
unfortunately. They get mad that they're out loose and get slapped on the wrist, yet they don't wanna pay to, because incarceration always costs money.
Mhm. That it does.
So we added a line on contract law enforcement revenue to reflect the Buffalo Center one.
That's what I recall looking at.
Looks like there's 5 now, and a few years ago there was only 4. Let's see, Cleveland, Green, Starville, and Tops.
Buffalo must be the
Yep.
bigger one.
That's these.
Looks like, so you were asking about the miscellaneous earlier?
Yep.
Looks like the first one was single stead hardware for $958. The next one is Baumgars for $957.
So anything that's within 950 to 960 is
So the next one is Lake Mills Lumber for $24.
with that out of order.
And the next one is Holland Contracting for $250. So I'm guessing there's probably would be a better place to put those things other than miscellaneous,
Okay,
but
I wish I could give you a better answer. I just remember just kinda, we talked about so many things, but just in
Remember
conversation.
Holland did?
I think that was when we rented that extended boom, put that sign up.
Oh,
Mhm.
I think that'd be under,
That's the
We'll
only
put
thing
it
I
under-
can think of.
put it underneath building or,
I mean, it's a capital project. It's
Cap-
not
yeah.
just a maintenance project. So it probably fits under there. I don't know where else you put it.
I can't, I wish I could speak to it, but I can't.
questions?
How close are you to hiring?
Well, interviews to next couple of days. So, gotta work our way through some background stuff. And
Do you have a target, kind of a date for it, or?
well, you know, here we're mid-month. I mean, February 1st is not gonna be doable if they have to do a 2-week notice or anything, so.
Depends on if you're hiring somebody that's been trained or not.
Yeah, just like I said, the courtesy to their employer, but so mid-February,
Right.
I guess that's feasible. There's been a lot of moving parts and pieces with, you know, getting started and Brandon in the academy and hiring process and all the beginning of the year stuff.
I didn't have anything else. Really got anything?
No. Other than I wish it was less.
Now you can just talk to them when they stop.
I'm not laughing.
I came across their thing the other day, the new deputy, he had me cuffed and stuffed darn near.
Guess I didn't know that.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, that's a,
He's been quiet today, I'm trying to rile him up a little bit.
Please don't.
Be careful what you wish for.
You saying we should watch the paper?
No,
Just the speedometer.
It was, no, it wasn't that. I practically stopped.
I've seen a lot of that lately. People just
Well,
rolling right through. They don't even get close.
this wasn't that bad, but it was icy right there. If you come to a complete stop, then you sit there and spin.
By your building.
Yeah.
Do you guys wanna go ask Chris if she can remove the matron W-2, or if it should all be under the matron 1099 versus the W-2 one, if we wanna move that?
Okay.
See
Can do.
what number looks better with the chart of accounts and see where we should have that,
Okay.
and then let me know.
All right. Do that directly.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good day. I went up to the stop sign slow enough. I spent more time in that intersection than most people do when they stop.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. Good.
hello. Sorry, I forgot my mask.
It's all right, you can sit close to me.
Why?
Just kidding.
Been there, done that.
I don't trust you. Everybody, yeah.
I went up to Wisconsin over New Year's, and up there it's the mentality, we've all had it.
Yeah, you've had it and I've had it. I'm not a threat to you. You're not a
I have
threat to
not
me,
had
right?
it.
You didn't have it?
No, I didn't.
I haven't had it.
I don't know how I didn't get it because over at our fall fishing trip, I was sitting at the table playing poker 2 nights in a row where a guy named Bryce, me, my dad, and my cousin Tony, the 4 of us sitting in a row, Tony and Bryce, Tony got sick for like 6.5 weeks. And Bryce, he was out of work for like 2.5 weeks. Of course, we know what happened to the old man, but it's like, I didn't get a sniffle. So I think I'm one of those people that's immune.
It wasn't you that got sick, it was the paramedic.
Dale. yeah.
Dale got sick.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right.
What blood type are you then?
O positive.
Well, that's the one
And
that's,
see my old man's
that's-
AB.
that's the good one.
Yeah, and AB is bad.
That's an
I'm,
I am, AB,
Don't tell me that. I worry about you enough the way it is.
I know.
I'm A negative. A blood types are more susceptible to all viruses.
Yeah, it's just interesting that, there's nothing definitive, but there's a lot of research on it.
I also tried to figure out whether mosquitoes like to particular blood type, and
I think we like O plus.
That's what I asked.
Well, they love me.
Chris said they're two totally separate animals and to leave them that way.
Okay,
That's what the charter thing says there.
okay, well then we'll leave it alone. All
Okay,
right, thanks.
thanks, guys.
Go through Department 37 first, or what are we doing first?
Might as well.
Communications.
Can we introduce ourselves?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Hi, I'm Susan.
I'm Jennifer Ackerman. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. I know you are just because I read it as,
Right.
and Andy. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
You want to get your request from him?
Hers is way
Hers
fancier than yours.
hers is shinier than ours.
Yeah, she closed.
Oh, goodness sakes, look at that. I look at that, about blinded me.
I don't want to say, but all the hot air from yours is fogging yours over.
Oh, starts already, boy.
Ours are fading off into the distance.
Oh,
I'll keep mine nice and clean.
evidently we're not worried about my feelings.
Sorry, though.
You're just kind of old and rusty.
I do have something for Andy. These guys have suggested that I ask you
Yeah.
to accompany me on my first
Master Matrix.
master matrix.
Ooh, yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah.
You bet.
So I've already gone out and looked at the location and know the date and time, but would you like to know the date and time? or-
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know if I'm available. I'll be there. Yeah, I've done a couple of those.
That's what they were telling me.
Yep.
The 25th at 1 o'clock.
Monday, I am going to be in Kansas City, if I can get back by that time. I have vacation to use to burn up before the 9th of February. It's because, I guess we could talk a little bit about how I'm handled as an employee, in between Winnebago and Hancock too, but, in Hancock County, that's essentially the employer. I have to have it done by February 9th, which is my anniversary date, so I will be gone on the 25th. If I make it back, or if you'd like, I can try to make it back.
Or is there someone else that I can ask?
Steve Anderson might be a good one. He's an environmental health sanitarian. He's done a few. I do the lion's share of them. My biggest thing is the site visit is great, but the questions have been answered by them, in my opinion. I do the majority of my verification using a thing called the AFO Sighting Atlas on the DNR site. It gives you all of the information that the matrix is looking at. So you can look at it through aerial maps, you can verify distances and things. And then when there's questions, for me, that's what the site visit is all about. Is when you say especially because DNR's there, you can say, would you classify that as a waterway? And they will go through and they'll shoot distances with you and things like that.
Okay, so this is not going to be a determination that day, right? This is just a
Right.
site. Yeah.
It's really, for me, it's a formality, to be completely honest with you. But again, I go through the matrix. That's part of what I do in Hancock County for one of my positions down there. So I go through all the different points and only the points that they take. If you're familiar with the matrix, even if it's part of the matrix and the applicant has not taken those points, then there's really nothing. I mean, there's no jurisdiction for the county whatsoever. The DNR still has jurisdiction over the entire section of code that manages AFOs. But when it comes to the matrix, see what they take points on. Some of them are ridiculous, that the structure is formed. Well, if it's concrete, it's formed, that it's covered. Well, if it has if you have animals on top of it and a roof and everything else, then it's covered. And they get like 30 points for each one of those. Based on size, the smaller you get more points. So there's a whole, and they have to get to 440 is the minimum. So again, I do the majority of the work. If you'd like me to sit down sometime this week to look at it with you, I'd be more than happy to do that. So you let me know your availability and
How will you look at it?
the matrix itself, haven't they submitted it?
Yeah, I have it in my office.
You have it.
Okay.
Yeah, I told you if you wanted to get a copy of it, stop by after the meeting last Tuesday,
Okay,
so we can
Alright.
make a copy of it for you.
okay.
Are you gonna be scoring those for the county?
Well, historically, the supervisors have taken what's in their district and they do it.
Okay.
Maybe it's not the best way to be done, or maybe
I don't
they
know.
need a little class from you to, I mean, I don't know what you guys do,
I
but,
personally am comfortable doing it. You know, I go out there and I physically look, I do the same thing what you were doing. I'll go on our beacon site and I'll actually
Yes.
measure point A to point B and
Yes.
get my distance and
Okay.
so, yeah, I
Yeah.
have done it.
I fill out again, this is just the way I do it, doesn't mean it's right, it's just, I mean, it's the way I've always done it. I created a matrix form years ago that's fillable, so I can just go in and say, okay, these are the points they've taken, for each one of the different 44, I think, 42, 44, points in the matrix. So I go through and I fill out my own so that I have something, because again, that's one of my responsibilities. I'm zoning administrator down in Hancock County as well. So I turn in a form to the Board of Supervisors prior to their public hearing, so they have something tangible in front of them that says I've reviewed it. And then I always have, like, the end of it, I make a recommendation, which I think I don't know, I've been doing this almost 20 years. And I think I've recommended twice not to approve. Other than that, I mean, if they get the points, I don't know how else you
Nothing
can.
you can do about it.
No, even if you hate it, so. And there was one that legitimately was not going to pass. There was another one that there was a significant disease risk to an adjoining farmer that, in my opinion, and the Board of Supervisors' opinion, that's the one we ended up taking down to the,
State.
environmental protection folks. So,
Well, I definitely don't feel confident in doing it by myself. So, I'm happy to meet out there and get information and.
Sure. If you want to meet here, actually, we can go through the matrix, and that's probably going to be more valuable to you, because that can be the most confusing part, to see where they've taken their points, and then from there see what needs to be verified, where you're going to have questions.
You can always have it, it's possible to get the switch too, and they might be able to have some flexibility, that people would be meeting out there with, so. Get it switched to a day when he's gonna be here.
I think
Yeah,
he's right, though. If you go through the matrix with him ahead of time, he can kind of show you what to look for, what to ask when you're out there.
Sure. I mean, I went and looked at it already. It's
Flagged.
flagged.
The paperwork itself is a lot easier to
Is
look
it
at.
is it a new site or an expansion? Or?
it's new.
Oh, great. I haven't had a new site forever.
We have one coming up that we just approved last year that we have to redo
Yes,
because of their well.
yep.
They put it in the wrong place.
Oh, no kidding?
Mhm.
So they're gonna lose points there, they're gonna leave the well, lose points there, but they're gonna take points where they didn't take it before. They have plenty of points.
There was points they could have grabbed, they just didn't need them, so they didn't do it.
Yeah.
The last new site that I did that had anything on it that was kind of suspect, it was like, I got done with everything and they were 5 points short. I'm like, how do you do that? So I went back and I had to call the person that developed the application, the matrix, and say, you're 5 points short, you're gonna need to resubmit, because they're allowed to resubmit up right until that time of determination by the Board of Supervisors, but the tough part was, it happened to be my niece's husband's site, the one time that it's family, and it was one that I had, like, oh, jeez. County attorney kept saying, just do what you normally would do. I'm gonna call. So, You let me know your availability, Susan, I'll be more than happy to come in and go through it. That,
Okay, well,
my opinion is that's gonna be the most valuable, is going through the matrix. Site visit is important to do, so you can say you've been there.
sure.
And that's
So
just
how much time do you think it would require for you to explain that to me?
maybe an hour tops.
Okay.
Yeah, that's if we really wanna get into the
Just-
Do
weeds.
you look at drainage maps?
Do I?
You know, so I had to look at the drainage map, make sure they're not gonna build it on where there's a drainage.
I've had
Yeah.
some people already calling me about that, because there's some
Yep.
trustees of
Make
that
sure they're
drainage
not building
district.
on top of a tile or,
And we always, I mean, my opinion on that is, it's one of those, that is the applicant's responsibility to make sure
Yeah.
that, because if they build over a tile, the district is gonna, hey, you're gonna hear about it just like
Well,
that.
DNR's not gonna like it.
Right,
and they have enough invested in it. I haven't seen one that's got any mistakes in it other than, the one that we tried not to
Yeah, the
approve down
turnaround
there.
area.
And Steve Anderson actually found that the turnaround wasn't quite far enough from the right of way, was it?
Yep.
Or not quite big enough
Kind
or
of a
something?
turnaround. We should probably get going
Yeah.
on budget. Okay, Jennifer, what do you got for communications?
Not too terrible significant changes. 3% raise, that's part of the union contract. We do have some IT stuff. I think
They're also with NGT on the IT.
like the data processing equipment, that line item went up. We have a computer that hosts, all the Shield services that needs to be replaced. Actually, I think we have two of them. We're replacing both of them. So that's 5,000 to replace those. And then, we budgeted in the, let's see, in the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure fund, I budgeted 25,000 to replace the production host at, NGT, thought that by the end of next fiscal year, it'll be needing to be replaced.
It's the production host.
Production host, yeah. And he explained it to me what it was, you know, when I talked to him about the budget a couple months ago. And now I don't remember what that was, but I think it's one of the, you know, part of the server that's in the office there. I don't know if you recall, was it 2 years ago, they talked about, when we talked about getting the server, backup server for Hancock County, which we did, putting everything on like a, I don't know if is it a 4 or 5 year rotation,
I
do you
think
remember?
the 4 is what they wanna aim for.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty aggressive. I don't know that we need to
It's pretty
actually
aggressive.
do it every 4 years. And, you know, just, I don't know, do we have to spend that money if we put it in the budget? It's there if we need to. Cause I think at the end of next fiscal year, it'll be at almost 5 years, I think, if I remember correctly. But Brad with NGT is gonna be on our conference call tomorrow when we discuss the budget to kind of talk about that. But otherwise, everything else is just percentages of, increase.
And Susan, for and I know Bill and Terry know this, the way that communications is governed in Winnebago County is that we're all employees of the Winnebago County Public Safety Commission, which is a 2080, that's the section of code that creates this governmental entity. The county has 1 seat, and then each one of the municipalities have another seat. They're our governing board that essentially set the budget for communications. Terry is the representative for Winnebago County, and vice chair, so, on that commission. So that's essentially how it's governed and run. So it's not a county budget, even though the county contributes to 50% of the expenditures. and then the communities, based on population, pay the other 50% of actual expenditures. It can be confusing.
So I'm looking at, just to expound on that, then under revenues, the contract law enforcement would be the revenue from the cities then?
Mhm.
What page are you on, Terry?
No, that's revenues 31, page 31.
And Carla does that billing for the commission on an actual expenditure basis. The revenue is obviously an estimate based on just the requested budget, so. Is that right, Carla?
Yep.
Okay. Please correct me.
But that contract law enforcement, is that transfers from us and the cities then?
No, it's just the cities.
Because the communications budget, I guess it is 523, so that would be about right.
And then the communications infrastructure and the infrastructure IT is 50%. That's actually a transfer into that fund from the county and the cities.
And the intent behind those two are to build up some capital so that, because things like computers and radio infrastructure are extremely expensive to do at one time, so that there's a pool to dip from rather than having to say, hey, we need a new, well, just like the console that runs the two computers that we use for radios, that's about a $250,000 piece of equipment if you would go buy it brand new today. So it's better to have a little cash sitting there so you don't have to say, hey, by the way, everybody.
Any more questions on communications? We'll move on to E911 service funds.
I don't enter that because it's not a budgetary fund. They have their own budget, so I don't put that in your book.
Yeah, so I budgeted 178,000. It hasn't changed a whole lot. The previous was 180.
This year's budget was 180.
What, yep,
So I actually put it in the book after all the budget's approved
The
so that
actual.
you
Right.
can see so Jen can see what's going on.
That's funded through the dollar surcharge on everybody's cell phone and landline phone. So that's how that money's paid for. The way that Jennifer is the 911 administrator for the county, and the way that I mean, 911 saves taxpayers a significant amount of money, in my opinion, because
Yeah.
we're in the midst of buying radios. I don't know how many radios you've bought.
well, yeah, I mean, in 19, we spent 167,000. In 20, we spent 78,000. This fiscal year, we've spent 93,000. And for next fiscal year, I'm budgeting 100,000.
So you're talking about, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, not this huge amount of money, but that's also money that municipalities don't have to spend. So specifically, ambulance services, law enforcement, including, county, obviously. Fire service is kind of where we're going next for the radios to go into this new communications infrastructure that we have. And so, again, it's, at the end of the day, the 911 surcharge saves those local taxing authorities pretty decent money because those radios are about $5,000 a piece.
So at our regional emergency management meeting the other day, the hazmat is getting new radios on the next budget. They wanted to come in after everybody else got their radios, and then they would come online with their radios because everything's changing to 700 megahertz. Is that right?
Correct. Yes.
And so everybody's switching over, but they wanted to be the last to switch over so they could do one-time programming of frequencies with everybody's radios. Because they go on a large area.
Yes. Yeah, 10 counties for the hazmat.
So how many more years of radios do we have to buy yet, you think?
I don't know. I need to get with the fire departments and find out what their needs are. But it just seems like things just keep cropping up, like, we ended up spending money this fiscal year that I had planned on using for fire departments for the squad cars, because they were having so many problems, we bought, what did we buy, extenders?
Extenders, FutureCom extenders, yeah.
So, that was another 5,000 per car, so,
And that was,
per
In-
squad car,
is that county or is that cities or?
both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long.
So, well, I didn't do
Just
Lake
long.
Mills, because I don't think Lake Mills was,
Lake
they were
Mills told
having
us we
problems.
can't touch their cars,
Yes.
because they're
yes.
working too well. They've gone so many years without, with having terrible radio that when we were gonna optimize, we were paying to have the radios just kind of fine tuned. And, Chief Thorson called and said, "You're not touching my radios." They worked for the first time. They actually have in-building coverage, so,
That was me.
yes, perfect, thank you.
Yeah, so I don't know, I need to take a look at what the needs are. I think we're getting pretty close, get the fire departments done, but, I mean, I don't know how many trucks they all have. It's probably gonna be more than the 100,000 that we budgeted. I would
Probably
imagine.
into one more budget.
Probably,
Yeah,
at
it'll
least.
probably be 3 or 4 more because of the little things that pop up. I mean, that'd be a guess, just because.
Yeah, and then, they get new squad cars and they get, I mean, it's always
When
something.
did we start the radio replacement?
3 years ago,
Yeah,
3 or
probably.
4 years.
And how much life do they have?
Depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Motorola, it's about 7 years, as they say, but that's not even logical. About a 10-year shelf life for a radio, but they can get up to 15. We have radios that are in service, in some of our fire apparatus that are probably better than 20 years old, that work just fine on the VHF side. And they should work, but these new radios are so technologically advanced that it's literally like having a high-powered computer, in your vehicle to do a ton of different things. And that's why they're so darn expensive. We could go cheaper, but we have all the feature sets that we want with the Motorola product. I believe, and I don't know, Jim, I don't talk about this, but I think they have a superior product, but you pay for it, and then some. And I know enough people in Motorola that if I think we're not getting treated right, I can rustle some feathers from time to time.
I've got a Motorola FM radio in my semi, and like 99, it still works.
Yeah.
Just perfect. I don't use it anymore.
But if you needed to, by golly.
I can still listen to LB Transport when I use it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not the same frequency as that. Perfect.
Well, I don't have any questions on the E911.
Emergency management's page 84.
Yeah, and I apologize, I didn't bring a copy because I gave my only copy to Carla because I was so proud that this is the first year since I think I've been here that I turned it in on time.
So this is where we share you with.
Yeah, with Hancock County. And so, yeah, just a refresher on how that works is that Hancock County pays all the bills for the emergency management program. Essentially my payroll, just pretty much anything. Anything that is considered shared. So vehicle and payroll. If there's like a cell phone expense, again, it's 50-50. But there's a new sheriff down there, and I'm on the sheriff's plan in Hancock County, so I don't know if he's ever gonna get me a bill. I'm just not really gonna say anything. So, and I'm actually gonna work a deal with him because my emergency management budget in Hancock County, and this isn't anything to do with Winnebago, but my emergency management budget down there pays for internet for the entire building, so I'm gonna tell him that it just needs to be a wash. And then, so there won't be a phone bill. But, like vehicle expense, there's trailers that both, there's a Winnebago County trailer that we just switched a tire on. Carla and I are gonna go halvesies on that, sorta. And then, like there's a Ranger up in Buffalo Center. That would be the only vehicle. And then obviously the pickup that I use, for work, it's got like 65,000 miles on it. It's got plenty of life left there.
Where's the Ranger in Buffalo Center?
At the fire hall.
Is it? They got one in there?
Yeah, they do. They don't have it on the trailer. And the reason that I have it, Forest City had it for the longest time. And then after Forest City got their own, I offered it up to Lake Mills first to see if they wanted it. They didn't. And then Buffalo Center, because it needs to be exercised and maintained. So if it needs repairs or something like that, that comes out of the vehicle repairs budget. But other than that, it's just the expenses that are sent in, billed by the Hancock County Auditor to Carla's office. And that's it.
Any insight on the rollout of 1B then?
So, it's gonna be 50% 75 and older, and 50% in a priority group or a target group. Obviously, you folks know that I'm soliciting names and information, not necessarily names, depending, but, it was anticipated that government, because of continuity of government being a critical function of society, at least some people believe, but anyway, that's why I got everybody's information, or at least their offices who's interested. Through the courthouse, I've asked all the cities the same thing, and that was removed by an organization through the IDPH called the Infectious Diseases Advisory Council, who are attached to IDPH. They made sure that the Iowa legislature, anybody that goes into the Capitol to lobby for money or whatever it is, those people are all included, by golly, because what they do affects us so much on a daily basis, when our local government who provides services on an hourly basis should be. So that's a little bit of a editorial rant I don't agree with whatsoever. One of the things that Allison has been very, very good at is when sometimes there's underages in her appointments. So that means she'll be vaccinating a group, and there's 10 doses in a vial, and she'll only have 7 people. And so if she can't identify those folks, she calls me, and my intent is to start working our way through county government and then those city governments. I don't know if that's going to go very quickly. I hope it would, but I don't know.
How about the administration of it? Is it going to just be public health doing it, depending on what they get for doses?
No. We actually, right before I came up here, I scheduled a meeting with Miller Pharmacy, Hy-Vee Pharmacy, and Mercy One clinics in Winnebago County. We're going to meet Thursday to talk about logistically how the doses, the 50% of the doses that we get of the allocation that go for those individuals 75 and older. We're hoping to use those 3 organizations to team together and deliver vaccinations to that age group. But we want to try to coordinate scheduling, gathering names and things like that, so that you don't have every 75 and plus calling all 3 places trying to get in as soon as they can, which I don't blame them. I think those folks have spent a long time very, very scared of this virus, rightfully so.
How will they start the process to get on the list?
I don't know. But from what I understand is Miller Pharmacy has been taking names, but Public Health has not. That's just something that I learned last week. So we're going to get together on Thursday afternoon and how do we want to do this so that we can coordinate it so that it's not just everybody go off and do their own thing.
Well, the question, I had talked to Julie about was, there's, in some states, it's a pretty long application thing to go through to get on the list to get your vaccine. Are we going through that process, or is it just identifying people and putting them on a list?
We're pre-identifying them.
Okay.
Because we're following we have to follow IDPH's recommendation whether we like it or not. They've told us that you guys use your best judgment locally. Obviously, don't act outside of the scope of your duty. So, I guess, for example, it would be irresponsible for, let's say, Allison to have her her family all come down and get vaccinated whether or not they're in the target groups or not. So little things like that would raise an eyebrow. Not even a little, that's a big thing.
So if you had only 7 people lined up,
Yep.
and they all wanted it right now, could you bring in anybody and give them the other 3 so you wouldn't have to waste it?
You can, well, would we, if it was a time crunch?
Yeah.
I'm not wasting 3 doses, and Allison.
I know in other states, they're wasting a lot of doses doing it.
We will not do that. We have not done that
And to
here.
me, it's just like, well, if you can't find the people in the right group, give it to whoever wants
You
it.
can find people that
As
want it.
long as they don't go out and brag that they got it.
Wow.
Well, there wasn't even an issue like that. There was an individual, well, it was a family member of mine that got the vaccine who was in 1A. I mean, so they were supposed to get it right away. When they were doing the ambulance crew, they were 1 dose short, so they called her and said, hey, you're in this group, come on down and get it. And she took a picture, put it on Facebook. She also has a tendency to get into fights on Facebook with people, because of her
She's got
opinions.
enemies already.
And so someone that doesn't have the same political opinion as her called public health upset because, and you'll have that. But again, so we're identifying those groups of the 50% that public health is going to be doing. So those folks with disabilities that live in a home setting and their caretakers, get those taken care of. The home health patients, get those folks taken care of. We'll move into the emergency responders. Now, one of the things that we've talked about is that an emergency responder in rural Winnebago County may not be the same as Des Moines Metro. Sometimes our plow operators, whether county, city, or whatever, are crucial in getting help where it's needed. So are we going to look at those folks if we have the opportunity? Absolutely we are. Then after that, it's the education sector. That's going to burn up a lot, and it all depends on supply. The gentleman that's taking office in the White House this week has pledged that he's going to have 100 million people. I hope that he sticks to that. That would be fantastic for everybody. I don't care who gets it done.
So my next question to you is, how can we help the process?
I don't know what anybody.
How about
can do.
education to the public? How do we help get it out there for the people that aren't on Facebook, that aren't on?
So when we can get it to you, again, and I don't, if we could get it to you, to all 3 of you, 4 of you tomorrow, to be very open about it, just to say that, because there's a pretty significant campaign against the vaccine. And it's a social media thing. That's driving some people to be afraid of it. And I don't have a problem with somebody having concerns, legitimate concerns, not just, but when they start telling me that we're gonna put nanotransducers in their body and we're gonna track their health and their movement, that's crazy talk. That's a conspiracy theory, and I'm not a big conspiracy theorist. So it's that, again, you don't have to, but that's gonna be the biggest help, is once we get people vaccinated, the media, folks on social media are going to take not the cases of the 34.9995 million people that have had a successful outcome from the vaccine. They're going to take the very small percentage of folks that might have had an adverse reaction and ended up in the hospital.
They have a reaction to everything.
Right. So far, there was a doctor in Miami that unfortunately passed away 2 weeks after his vaccination. Nobody has any idea if that has anything to do with it. However, if you look around on the internet enough, by golly, that killed him.
Yeah, all the ones that I've read about have all had some other underlying condition that their health was that bad anyway, that they were probably gonna pass away whether they had the vaccination or not.
Yeah, my 79-year-old mother has said she doesn't care what it does. She's had COVID, obviously we lost Dad to COVID, but it's one of those things that you would not get a runaway train to stop her from getting that vaccine.
And my dad's the same way.
Yes.
He'll be 90 in March.
Yep.
He's been waiting.
Yep.
Not so patiently, but he's been waiting.
And I understand that, and I wish that they would send us 10,000 doses and say, get her done. We'll have it done in a few weeks, trust me.
And he's under the care of public health, so he'll be on their list to
Yes,
accommodate.
absolutely.
I guess I don't want to I don't wanna go out and advertise that I got the vaccine when there's a lot of older people that really need it worse than I do. You know, I'll take the vaccine. If I take him in and I'm part of that one, that's fine.
Yep.
But,
And our big thing is, and I understand that sentiment, but, there's sometimes that we have to make a split decision, and I need somebody so that we don't put that vaccine.
and I also look at it, I care for him. So I'm one of the caregivers for my father.
Absolutely.
None of the rest of the family's up here to care for him.
Right.
So I'm not ashamed of that part of it.
Yeah, I had the choice to take the vaccine or not, but the timing, I didn't have a choice. My public health or community health person down in Hancock County said if I'm gonna help with the clinics that, she said, you're getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
So I'm fortunate in that regard, but I don't feel like I took it away from anybody, because of the way that IDPH was dragging their feet.
Would it help you if we started gathering lists of names of people that want it? Or not?
If they're in, I think we're
I'm
doing.
talking about the 75 and over. Or
Well, see, and that's what we're meeting about on Thursday, and anybody's welcome to be there. We're having it out at my office, at the sheriff's office, at 2:00 on Thursday.
Okay.
Because what we're trying to do is to make sure that, we're gonna do it well once and get as many people as we can. My concern is that we're gonna get these huge lists of folks, because our estimation is anywhere between like 800 and 1,500 folks in Winnebago County alone could meet that. I don't have a demographic, so we have to be honest with people. But I don't wanna encourage somebody like, hey, I'm on this list and they're gonna call me any day,
Yeah.
when it might be weeks, could be months.
Well, the nurse has been telling him, it'd be one of the first 2 weeks in February if we're lucky.
Yeah, we're sitting on doses right now, to be honest with you.
But you don't know if they're ours or not.
Well, no, they literally are in a refrigerator
I
in
know,
Forest City.
Did
But-
they send 100 doses that weren't identified for us?
I
According to Julie, that's what it was.
Yeah, I know, we have no idea,
We're
because,
supposed to get 200, we got 300, but they said, no, those aren't yours. They're shorted in Des Moines or whatever.
Yeah,
Trying to
and-
find out what the ruling on that is.
Yep. It's interesting that there's, like in the US right now, I think there's like 34 million people that have been vaccinated or something like that, but there's like 60-some million that have been shipped. I
Distribution and administration is two big different numbers.
don't understand it. Again, if they would let loose the dogs and just let us do it,
It'd
we
be
would.
so simple for the state of Iowa to say to Julie, go ahead and use them, we'll just take them off your next allocation.
I don't think they would even do that. The more people that, if we could go through and say Winnebago County's done, everybody that wants it has it, that'd be amazing. And I can't wait for that day myself. I think we're all, like your dad has experienced COVID fatigue, is the name for it, sick of it. So, but if I can think of anything, I'll let you guys know
I need to know what to tell people when they call me, because I have people calling me.
about they want the vaccine.
Yeah, how do we find out about it? Where are we supposed to take it at? When I'm.
Right now,
I'm 75 plus.
yeah, we'll have more information this week, and that's a crappy answer, Susan, I gotta be honest with you. February 1st is when Iowa Department of Public Health has let us open up 1B. Okay, so February 1st is the date. Now, we want to have our ducks in a row prior to that date, so on February 1st, as soon as somebody drops a deadbolt, that there's people standing in line. We don't know what our allocation is gonna be. They might send us 1,000 doses, they might send us 50.
And it all comes to the county and then distributes to the pharmacies?
Well, and that's what we're gonna figure out, because what we don't want is, we don't want Hy-Vee doing their thing, Miller doing their thing, and Mercy One doing their thing, and having every 75-year-old in the county calling all three, trying to see where they can get in first. We wanna try to coordinate that, so that we're trying to be as equitable as possible. And then it's gonna be nothing but, there's gonna be nothing but information. I'm on KOW every Monday morning. If a reporter calls you and you don't know an answer, and Allison or Julie are not available, give them my phone number, and I'm more than happy to talk to them, because, you know, we understand the frustration. I cannot begin to tell you how many nights I've gone home just beyond angry, disappointed and a little heartbroken, to be honest with you. But
Well, I commend you on all the work you've done on this. I mean, I've been on several of those calls,
thank you.
Thursdays, and
I want to kill this virus more than anything in the world. So, and I don't want anybody else to have to deal with it. So,
and Julie's going through a lot too. Allison's doing a great
Yes.
job.
I can't say enough good things about our public health. They, with a little bit of what they got, yeah, they've definitely stepped forward. And I know there's been some, I think a lot of tears. The fact that we're not alcoholics, I think, is probably a pretty good thing. We must be tough.
There was me.
Yeah, and yeah, because I saw Allison yesterday at Target over in Mason City. We just kind of look at each other like, hi. Just not even talk. I'll see you on Monday.
Good friend of mine that was a pallbearer in his funeral here a while back. He survived the COVID. He lost his will to live. He was 94 years old. And he got his friends and his family. Nobody could come and see him.
Yep.
And he just got tired of it. His wife was gone, and he just.
The most significant thing that we're going to see post-COVID is a lot of PTSD, a lot of mental health issues. People have been scared for a long time, and they've been isolated for a long time.
The older people are used to going out and congregating together and, you know, surviving on that.
Yeah.
They haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, and I've spent a lot of time with my mom, you know, obviously, you know, after everything happened with our family, and so you try to do that, but, you know, that's not super safe for her either. She thinks that, you know, she's had COVID, so she's, you know, she'll be just fine. I said, you can't assume that, Mom.
Trump said.
Yeah.
9 months.
Yeah, she's, so, again,
Well, nobody knows either, so.
Yeah, I know.
jury's out. We don't know.
I personally don't think I need the vaccine, because I may have had it. It seems like my sense of smell isn't what it used to be. If I had it, I don't know. I didn't have any other, but I never get sick.
I don't either.
Yeah, knock on wood or whatever, but I certainly don't need it before anybody else.
No, and I understand that, and if you were the only person to ever say that, Bill, and I think a lot of people I talk to feel the same way. When it comes, again, if I got to make all the decisions in the world, we'd be fine, but just kidding. But the continuity of government in my world is extremely, because it provides order. If something were to happen to two of our supervisors at the same time, and not even.
You mean like over in Worth County?
I didn't know about Worth, but so if it takes out two of our supervisors, essentially decisions can't get made. A lot of the business that happens on a weekly basis here. Same with, I feel the same thing about, very strongly about our boards of supervisors and our mayors across Iowa need that vaccine
Two of the
because.
supervisors go down, the auditor becomes a temporary supervisor.
Unless there's a quick appointment.
Yeah.
Right, but there needs to be two people to make that appointment, doesn't there?
Oh, it's gotta be the
Oh,
recorder, the auditor.
the other elected officials, okay. So, yeah, there's just, I understand the sentiment, and I feel the same way, but, and as a government bureaucrat, you know, to say, well, government's very important. Parts of government are very important. It affects, the folks that live in Winnebago County are more affected by your decisions than they are the Iowa legislature. I mean, as far as short-term stuff, the emergency decisions that need to be made, that gets done locally. So it's a slap in the face to local governments, in my opinion, that IDPH Director Garcia has said, we need to make sure that our legislators can do their very important business. And anybody going in there to do very important business. I get it, everybody deserves it, but it's nothing but pandering because it's budget time, folks.
Yeah.
So, again, I don't know what's in Director Garcia's heart, and I don't know what her intent was, and please don't take it that I'm saying this is why she did it, but it stinks to me.
I guess in the grand scheme of things, you look at the number of people that would be vaccinated at the legislature. That's a very small percentage of the population of Iowa.
I would rather take, if we could go back, I would just go, all right, oldest person in Winnebago County, you're number one on the list. Then the next oldest, and get our healthcare folks taken care of. Then after that, let's go age. And then age and disability and, people that if they get it, it's probably gonna
Have
be.
we done all the nursing homes?
I don't know that. That has all been handled through a federal pharmacy partnership, that the federal government has contracted with 3 pharmacy chains, Community Pharmacy, CVS, and Walgreens. They each are assigned a specific nursing home. So they'll be going in, it's end-to-end supply chain. So they'll go in and do all the employees and the residents at the same time. And I don't know the status.
I was just looking at they said there's been large number of outbreaks in Iowa at the nursing homes. And
I've got 6 in my 2 counties, all 6 of them had outbreaks.
had it.
They're devastating.
Everybody at the Time of the Mission nursing home got it except for my niece who works there.
Yep.
Everybody's had it.
Yeah, and it's, for some of those folks, it's the death sentence. And you just don't know. I think of the story of, and I think we all know Dave Donchie from Forest City here. Dave was tired of not being able to be around his wife and moved himself into Good Samaritan. And unfortunately, he contracted COVID. It was tough timing for anybody, but, so he moved in to be with his wife, and unfortunately, it cost him his life. Now, I think, knowing Dave as well as I do, I don't think Dave would have done anything different, because being away from Sue wasn't a good option for him as well. But it's things that there's a lot of heartbreaking stories out there, so.
Yeah, there's a guy up at Frost tested positive for COVID and decided to shoot himself.
Wow.
Yeah, again, I think the mental.
Now, there was other issues there, but
And how did they report that one?
I would assume it was a COVID death. I like that meme that shows like a CSI Miami, couple of guys in there and a mortician doing the autopsy or whatever. And it says, 3 gunshot wounds to the chest, blunt force head trauma, and then the 2 of them look at each other, definitely a COVID death.
All right, well, I'll get out of here. Susan, give me a call this week and we'll get together. Whatever works good for your schedule, just let me know.
Any time before Monday, I guess.
Yep, I'm gone Friday and Monday of next week, and then Thursday afternoon. So whatever works for you. I don't think I have anything super pressing on my schedule this week. There's stuff, but yeah, look at your schedule. Let me know. I'll make whatever work.
I only have Wednesday and Friday available.
Would you be able to make his 2:00 meeting on Thursday?
Thursday the 21st.
Correct.
You said you had that 2:00 with
Yeah, with all the.
I have an early childhood at 9 a.m., but yours is at 2. I could probably get to that. Is there a time, do you have a time frame around that? Before it?
Before it would be perfect.
Okay, like
Yeah.
at
You want to do 1? Yeah. Exactly, and I'll work with Carla and get a copy of the.
Matrix.
and I'll take a copy home, is that
Yep.
correct? Okay, so where at?
Out at the sheriff's office, the public safety center on Highway 69 North.
just go to Sandy's office and she'll let you in.
Yep, okay. 1 o'clock on Thursday.
Yes, awesome. Perfect. All right, I'll get out of here. Thank you so much for everything.
Thanks, Andy.
I won't make the Thursday one, sorry. I'll be out of town.
That's fine. I'm going to Kansas City to help my daughter work on her house. They chose Kansas City to be close to family in case they need to work on something. And I'm driving 5 hours one way to. I do it all. All right. Have a good day.
You do.
Next, what?
Well, those 3 were easy. They were all less than last year.
Yeah. You wanna look at your budget?
Yeah, look at Supervisor, but
Oh, geez, what's that? It's probably a mess.
how many pages is that one?
Almost a whole page.
What page is it on?
8.
8.
We're number 1. 01.
I've been number 1 many times.
Probably the discussions we've had in the past, whether we want to leave our mileage and subsistence numbers in there. You know, we've had a couple of, well, this year for sure, we just haven't had as many in-person meetings. But hoping things by 2022 are going to be better, where we can actually go to ISAC meetings and actually go to the IDDA. And
Mine isn't gonna be as wild as it used to be because all my mental health meetings now are all just gonna be in Emmitsburg, so I don't have to worry about going over all the way to Alameda County. You know, I get to watch the Mississippi River go by as you're there.
so your high year was probably the 35.99.
After that, I would say it might be close to half of that now. So,
You wanna do like 2,500?
yeah, I would think I'd be able to get by at that now, because it's gonna be much less.
I guess I'd like to leave 3,500 in mind just so when ISAC goes back into in-person meetings, I can go to those and,
They've already decided not to do the March one in person.
right,
course.
that's this year.
Of course, I don't have Ken to ride with all the time anymore. He loved to drive, so I says, well, I'll let Worth County pay for it.
So you wanna leave yours at 3,500 too?
Maybe to be safe, we should,
Okay.
till I know exactly what it's gonna be.
How about you, Susan?
I don't know, I already had 450 miles and I was only here for 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks. So it's kind of like, oh my gosh. Lots of trips over here. I have no idea.
Just leave it at 4,000 then for now?
Yeah.
Our educational training, that's the registrations for those conferences, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave that on mine.
The dues and memberships then.
Well, that's,
Supervisors.
ISAC,
2 ISAC, NIACOG.
but there's 2 ISACs, there's the district one,
Mhm.
and then there's also the state one. And
Well, look, we have a miscellaneous.
Oh, it's my favorite. At least ours has got 0 in it.
0. I noticed.
We
that.
know what we're doing. The rest of them they're confused.
What I'd really like to do under a capital project for us is get somebody else to take that vault, move it somewhere else, and we can open up this room a little bit.
If there was anywhere else to put it, I'd take you up on it, but,
You're using it.
mm-hmm,
Yeah, last time I looked in there, it didn't look like there was a lot of room left in there.
no.
We had training for the shooter training, where somebody comes in and then we have to panic. And, you know, and told us to go into the vault, and close the door, and we can close it from the inside.
And then keep it locked. They put little nuts in there, so you,
Little window there you can crawl out of.
there's a little nut hanging on a string in there, and you put that in the mechanism so they can't open it up from the outside. We just held it shut during that, active shooter or whatever training, whatever it was.
And I wouldn't have gotten
You
shot.
need that?
I'd hate for my wife not to be able to get home.
Yeah.
And I only got shot once, only because Hepperly was blocking me from getting out. He was in our group.
Yeah, what was it, they shot 20 the first time, and we all just sat there and cowered, and then and then when we actively tried to defend ourselves, they only got one or something like that.
Yeah. It was kind of fun that day.
It was interesting.
Carla's the only one with the key then? Or the combination?
You have the combination.
I'm
Never
sticking by
use
you.
Do you ever use the combination though?
For this one,
Yeah.
It's never locked, is it?
not very often.
Yeah. Unless you've got somebody in the room here for some meeting or something, or other than us,
Usually it's by accident.
all by accident.
Yeah, the rest of the vaults are locked, but
Basically just storage.
that one is.
In the rest of the vaults, you just lock them at night, don't you?
Mhm.
Other than that, there's not much you can adjust. Are we, so the health insurance is reflective of what we're gonna need then?
I didn't know, I probably should just look at your paperwork.
Oh,
I haven't done that yet.
okay. It's
You
just
still
me.
got Mike's policy in here or whatever.
Yeah, so we can
And his had more life on it,
yeah, I'll fix that.
so we'll gain there.
Mm.
It's just you, is it? No.
Just me.
Okay.
Just about told Kelsey, I says, how come you can't have Sam get it through John Deere so the county could save some money?
Well, I guess I should have some questions. I just assumed it would be just me,
How old is that?
well, too old, it's
Yeah.
gonna be.
So
Yeah,
he
yeah.
doesn't qualify.
I mean, you can't have any family members unless they're 18. Or
26.
26?
Up to 26.
Yeah.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's older than that.
That changed it with Obamacare.
Yep.
It was lower.
Yes, I remember that.
I think you had to be in college before, didn't you?
Can't remember. I try to get rid of the old information so I have the new information.
You can have your kid on until 26. What happens if the kid gets married before 20?
Well,
Nothing?
mine did, but
Yeah.
she was on her own policy then anyway.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it's, technically, they still qualify then, do they, or?
Well, no, actually, she was married before she got a job. So she was on my insurance until she started at Mercy, so about a year she was on my insurance. So. But she was 23, 24, something like that. But she didn't cost as much.
It's those old duffers that cost.
Yeah. I cost us. So, if I ever go in. I don't have regular visits, I just,
The only thing I've ever used a health insurance for years is DOT physicals. But I do have to get another one.
okay, well, that's our budget. What other one do we want to look at?
Let's be done for today.
Okay,
Good enough.
I'm sorry, I can't be on.
I'm in charge of
It's okay.
making steaks tonight.
Pardon me?
I gotta go home and make steaks tonight.
No, Monday night steak night, is it?
Well, it is when you got them sitting in the freezer and we got another cow coming, so.
Oh, I can help you out with any of those frozen
So I'm
ones.
saying,
Yeah, yeah, just let us know,
I got a whole family's up for adoption for stuff like that.
We thought they were roast because the way it was packaged.
Oh, is that right?
We opened it up one time, oh,
Whole bunch of
That's
separate
ribeye
steaks.
steaks.
Oh golly, well, that's a nice surprise.
They're like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's a pretty nice day for grilling.
Well, I'm an indoor.
You're not gonna grill